walk us through the Padres farm system. Not only do you have some firsthand experience seeing some of these guys, witnessing their talents, but AJ Preller had a busy deadline, man. And so a lot of people look at the Padres farm system and they kind of go, what's left? There's a lot left, leading with one of the most famous international prospects in his respective class. And I won't steal any more of your thunder, but really excited to hear this one.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let's jump into the Padres farm system. Like I always like to start my farm systems, it's always about taking a look at some of the notes and take a look at the context before we jump into what's going on. So we got to start it off with the Mason Miller trade. I was over in Frisco at the trade deadline. We were taking on the San Antonio Missions. So I got to actually see this whole thing and how everything went down in sort of firsthand. So got to hear about the fact that there were prospects that were taken in a car immediately after they got traded and were sent over to Midland, which is kind of insane to think about. I got to be there for that actually happening and see how that kind of impacted the team culture, which is pretty interesting. You know, Mason Miller, massive closer. He's going to be great, has some of the best velo in the game. But the Padres had to give a lot away in exchange for Miller's services. Not only did they get rid of top prospect Leo DeVries, who's going to be a top name. He's going to be one of the guys you'll hear about all throughout the minor league baseball season before his inevitable debut. But also, they lost some really strong pitchers that I think were very close to being ready. We're talking about Double-A pitchers Braden Nett, Henry Baez, as well as Eduardo Nunez. So those were just three really strong pitchers that they had that were kind of that depth of that. But when we look at the top five of the Padres, it is mostly made up of pitching, but they are pitchers with a longer time to go, a little bit longer of an ETA. And we look back and right what the Padres rotation is right now. Fortunately, they did sign back Michael King. That's going to be huge for the rotation. They went over. They're one of the teams that can actually do a good job of, signing players from Asia. So they went over to the KBO, got a very talented pitcher in Sungwon Song from the KBO to be able to come in and add to their rotation. And then also Joe Musgrove, he is on schedule to come back, which is very nice to have him back. If you're a Padres fan coming back from Tommy John. So it gives you some reliable options, but it's tough to think that maybe if you did keep a Braden Nett or Henry Baez, these guys might have been debuts this season, which could have been very helpful for the Padres. And we've seen some projections actually keep the Padres around 80 to 82 wins, a little bit less from their back-to-back 90-win seasons that they've had. And I think if anyone's looking for that weak point and the reasoning to get rid of some of those wins, it's because of that reason right there. So it's kind of the give and take that you get when it comes to trades. And we've seen the Padres, they're aggressive. They are aggressive. They're willing to make moves. They're willing to acquire the talent that they need. But unfortunately, the team has been so close to greatness very often, but there's been a blockade with the Dodgers and, of course, the Phillies as well. So the question is, can they break through? And there are some top prospects that can be able to do so, and we'll talk about them. For reference, though, I'll walk through the farm system levels. Low A is Lake Elsinore, High A, Fort Wayne, Double A, San Antonio, Triple A, El Paso, just for reference as we go through it. So number one, household name in minor league baseball. It is Ethan Salas, the catcher, age 19 years old. Double A was his current level, and he is a 2027 ETA. Big thing recently for Salas is the injuries. He's dealt with the stress reaction in his back, and as a catcher, back injuries are terrible. That's really tough to deal with, so that's kind of hampered him this last season, a part of why the numbers are down. But all you've got to know here with Salas is that his projections defensively are already immaculate. I mean, when it comes to his tools, field tools, 70, arm, 60, boom, exactly what you need to be a backstop for a decade in Major League Baseball. So now the defense is something that's always going to keep you in the lineup. It's always going to keep you there, but can you get the offense to catch up? He's still at a very young age, actually debuted in affiliated ball at age 17, now sitting still just at age 19, so still has so much time to develop. One thing that stood out when reading a little bit about him, though, was that he had an opportunity to be on the development list, which if you don't know, the development list in minor league baseball is when a player can be taken out for maybe 1 or 2 weeks off of his roster, and they can be sent to be able to train, whether that's at a spring training facility or even with a major league club. And we've seen that where Ethan Salas got some opportunities with the San Diego Padres major league hitting coaches, and it allowed him to change a bit of his approach. Talking about keeping him a little bit taller. He's 6'1", 185. I'm sure a lot of catchers are used to always kind of squatting down, getting a little bit lower, and utilizing your legs and utilizing your power quite a bit. So I think that's where Salas was a bit lower in the plate. But I think the major league hitters, hitting coaches, they've been telling them like, hey, we're going to teach you to be a little bit higher. This is going to allow you to drive the ball and going to lead to less lazy fly balls, and there's going to lead to more line drives. And we saw that help him a little bit in 2024. And now I really want to see if that's going to help him in 2026 as well, too. So that'll be a big thing to keep an eye on as he goes through his time with the San Antonio Missions in Double-A. Will be, can he get back healthy? Is his defense going to continue staying where it's at and continue be in his elite area? And then can he get that offense going as well, too? Because even if he can get at just even a decent level, a 250 batter, 220, 230 batter in Major League Baseball, his defense is going to allow him to be the backstop in San Diego for a long time. I'll probably run through these younger prospects a little bit quicker, but before I move on, I want to see if you have anything to say, Cory.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Sedric. So everything you hear about Ethan Salas in terms of how he commands the plate, his arm, his accuracy, that's there, right? You alluded to it perfectly. It's just catching him up on the offensive end, and great insight on toying with the batting stance. Or does he want to be more crouched down? Sounds like they were trying to get him to be taller, bigger, more prominent, use that big frame. And you hit the nail on the head with 220, 230. If he can get to that point when he gets up to the majors, that's all you need. Pitching is so hard to hit right now. You're seeing league average batting averages just start to work their way lower and lower. I don't think they'll ever get to the Mendoza line, but they're getting about as close as they have been in a while. And it's just because it's so hard to hit major league pitching. So with that considered, if Salas can just be an average hitter, he will never, ever, with his defensive skill set, have to worry about being replaced, right? This was the hot ticket item going into his age 17 season when you mentioned he was the #1 international prospect. The framing's there. The ability to ground his pitcher that he's working with as his battery mate is there. The arm is 100% there. Now it's hitting and something that kind of reared its ugly head this last year, availability. You want someone who's going to be out there for triple-digit games. So I'm looking forward to seeing him develop, but everyone's got to keep a microscope on what he can do on offense, because no matter how good you are on defense, there comes a certain point where you are replaceable if you can't perform. Good news, you just walk through that entire timeline. He's still only 19 with all that learning experience. That's the benefit of getting into the game so early, is he's going to have well over a couple hundred games of experience if he stays healthy, and he'll still be just 20, 21 years old. So excited to see what Salas can bring.
Yep. So no doubt top 100 prospect there in Ethan Salas. And even though he's taken a little bit of a hit there, he's still firmly in that top group. Now going on to the 3 young guns, we got 2 lefties and a righty, all under the age of 21, and all just finished up a season in Lake Elsinore. You'll probably see a lot of them in Fort Wayne coming up this year. We'll start with Kruz Schoolcraft. Now this guy, it's the insane measurables that stand out. 18 years old, left-handed pitcher, ETA 2029, height 6'8" on the mound.
That is crazy, man.
Ridiculous.
Like
height.
up near
He might
miss.
not even be done growing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's going to be a domineering presence on the mound for sure. 97-mile-per-hour fastball as well. So the height is not just the size. He also bats it up with some fastball with quite a bit of bite as well, too. That's his best pitch, graded at 60. The only knock on it right now is that the spin isn't much on it, so it's kind of easy to play. It's kind of playing straight line, but if he gets more spin on that, which I think given his time, there's going to be a lot of time for him to work with the pitching coaches of San Diego. He's going to be getting that thing moving pretty well. Also, does pretty well with the slider and change, both a solid 55 grade off of that. And then also they really complimented that changeup and how he's very consistent in terms of keeping his delivery pretty similar, whether he's throwing his fastball or his changeup, which can be a little bit rarer for younger pitchers. That's usually a pitch that maybe some guys can struggle with. There is not often a top pitch. So I think that it's really cool to see that he's doing really well with the consistency. Those are the little things that young pitchers maybe will have to focus on. You don't want to tip anything. You don't want to make it where people can see patterns of which pitch that you're going to go, because, again, that timing matters. So I think that's a really important key detail for him. And then also his control and command is already at a really good spot as well too, especially when you have a guy who has a fastball very high, 97. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that tick up to almost 100 at some point in his career. I think that's really good that he can maintain that command. And then last point on him, he was a two-way guy in high school. So now you change that dynamic. Instead of having to train to be focused on two different positions, you can now just focus on one position, which for some people, that makes things a little bit easier. And I think that could be awesome for him to kind of just like focus on one position. I can be all in on pitching, and we're just going to narrow into that. And that can make things easier for him to some degree, despite the fact that the competition gets a little bit tougher. Moving on to Humberto Cruz, right-handed pitcher, age 19. Another guy who was in Lake Elsinore, 2029. So far with Lake Elsinore, he had a couple starts, made 6 of them, 6.97 ERA, 20 strikeouts to 9 walks. Again, might need a little bit more time there to continue working on that. But he's a guy who also competed on the international stage. We talked about it with the World Baseball Classic. Well, Cruz, he competed for Team Mexico in the U18 Baseball World Cup. That's showcasing you're one of the best guys in your country, in your class, which is pretty awesome to see. So again, he's had some of that international competition, gotten to go against really talented teams there. I actually have a player at UMES who was on the Puerto Rican team, U18 World Baseball Cup squad. And you play against some teams like Japan, like Chinese Taipei. So you're getting some of the best competition over there as well. But moving on, he kind of started off when he got picked up by the Padres, was kind of in that upper 80s area. Yeah, now he's touching 97 as of recently. So again, you can see how big that growth is from that 17, 16, 18-year-old range to where you're at 19, 20 years old as you continue to build. I think it's always so interesting how the MLB is able to scout so well that they can find these projections as well too, and how they can take a guy who's in the high 80s and know that that guy is going to eventually get to the mid to high 90s as well too. I think it's impressive. His pitch offerings, though, pretty consistent: a 55 fastball, 55 changeup, 50 slider. Now, the bad news, though, is that he will be out this year because of UCL surgery, which you hate to see that. But if you're going to go through injuries, it's better to go through early and get some of those surgeries knocked out early. So that's unfortunate for him and his development. But I think this year is going to be a lot about getting right before eventually returning to probably Lake Elsinore when he gets healthy, and then kind of pick up where he left off. So a little bad news there with Cruz, but overall, really promising prospect as well, too, and has some things to like about him. Then we have a baseball name right here. I like this. Kash Mayfield. How about that for a baseball? Yeah, left-handed pitcher, age 21. ETA projection is 2028. This was a former first-round pick of the Padres. Had some starts in Lake Elsinore, and he's exactly what you wanted. 2.97 ERA, 60 and 2/3 innings pitched, 88 strikeouts, 28 walks. Pretty consistent starter. Fortunately, his offense let him down a lot. He was 1-5 as a starter, but the numbers are great, and you don't have to look at that. The main thing, though, to see is that his changeup is a phenomenal offering. It is a 60 graded changeup. It's his headliner. He works his other pitches off of that, and I think that's going to be his pitch that you're going to see. It's the one where really it can come at you, and the table just is pulled out from underneath it, and it dives. It's got nasty drop to it, and I think that's going to make him a dangerous pitcher. He's a guy that had a lot of really good notoriety in his home state of Oklahoma, where he's a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year over there. And again, I think he's a guy where he's progressing very well towards being a solid starter. He had a full season of starting, made 19 starts, pretty solid, and we'll see where he continues to go next year. Hopefully just continue to be a good starter when it comes to working in Fort Wayne, or if he gets some more time in Lake Elsinore, if they think that's where he needs to be, he gets there and then gets a chance to pitch in the Midwest League. And then lastly, we'll go to the guy who's the most major league ready of the bunch. It's Miguel Mendez. Did a lot of his pitching in San Antonio, but his stuff is described as electric. That fastball, 65 graded fastball, slider graded 60. Those are two really great offerings to have that you can work off of each other. And he's a guy that I expect to compete in spring training to potentially be major league ready and be an opening day roster invite, or at least on the 40-man for the Padres. So again, really excited to see that growth that's there. He's a guy that's fastball is up near the triple digits. He's touched 100 before, has some serious life in the zone especially. And again, he can work that slider off of that, a good mid 80s slider that can work off of that 100-mile-per-hour fastball. Was something that we used to see as more of a back end reliever type of arsenal. But now that we've seen the meta of pitching just continue to grow, we're seeing starters that are consistently able to throw that and maintain it through 5 to 6 innings. So very interesting to kind of see the variety that's there. A big thing he worked on recently were the walks. His walk numbers really went down in 2025. He was at 14.9% in 2024, and then got it much lower to a single-digit percentage in 2025. And he was another starter that filled the missions rotation when Braden Nett and Henry Baez departed. And we'll talk a little more about that for our Diamonds in the Rough. But it was a great year for him in Fort Wayne. 1.32 ERA, very consistent. Struggled a little bit adjusting to Double-A, but I still think his stuff is going to keep him in the mix when it comes to spring training. So we'll go over there. That's our top 5 prospects to round it out. Once again, to recap: number 1 prospect, Ethan Salas; number 2, Kruz Schoolcraft; number 3, Humberto Cruz; number 4, Kash Mayfield; and number 5, Miguel Mendez. So 4 pitchers and a catcher.
Man, Kash Mayfield, I concur, man. Phenomenal baseball name. And then quickly for Kruz Schoolcraft, you hear all the time about the two-way players who end up specializing. Look, it's okay that not everyone's going to be Shohei Ohtani. He is truly a unicorn for a reason. But to look back at a couple of guys who chose a little later in their career, past high school, some even past college, to specialize, Nolan McLean held the bat over his shoulder in the lower levels of minor league baseball and was a great pitcher too. But it just seemed like something was unlocked when he was able to dedicate 100% of his baseball training attention to the mound, and now he's one of the best prospects that we have overall. Paul Skeens held the bat over his shoulder at Air Force, went over to LSU, specialized, and had one of the best college baseball seasons we've ever seen. So while it is fun to imagine some of these guys replicating some of what Shohei has done, or give us a flash to the not-so-distant past of pitchers who can rake, it's also usually, in those case scenarios at least, those are just a couple of drops in the bucket, a good thing for them to fully, to your point, focus on throwing strikes. And to have someone like Schoolcraft, who's only 18, 6'8", 230, man, and he's controlling where the baseball's going, that guy's only going to get scarier as long as his command can stay close, condensed, reeled in, and he has that repeatable motion. I'll trade the two-way potential career for a 6'8" and growing 230-pound monster who could be throwing triple digits. So I'm going to keep an extra close eye on Kruz Schoolcraft. That's another good name too.
That is a great name. That's going to be one of those players where, a minor league minute video a couple years down the line, you're going to see he's a 6'8" pitcher, or what if he might be 6'9", 6'10" by that point. 6'10" pitcher. And it just is cool to just think about those potential. But yeah, he has a huge future in front of him. Speaking of huge futures, we got a couple of diamonds in the rough. We have one kind of more obscure prospect, one that is in the top 30. We're going to go with Eric Yost for the first one. Now, this is a guy I got to see his Double-A debut back on August 2nd of 2025 with the Frisco Rough Riders. So, of course, whenever a trade happens and you lose multiple players in your rotation, there needs to be guys that are going to step up. So here's one of them, Eric Yost. He had to be put on a flight from Fort Wayne, had to get himself down to Frisco, and had to start the game for the San Antonio Missions. And what did he do? Yeah, he threw 6 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 5 Ks. He was nails, solid for a first start. And that really showed me what he was made of and what his mentality is, because that's really hard to have to do that step up, kind of not when you were expecting to it. It's more of a call up where he definitely could have earned it. His ERA was great and his numbers were great in high A, but he had to be called to the doorstep because there was pitchers that were leaving the organization and they needed guys to step up and fill in. And he really answered the call. So I really was impressed with him on that night. And again, it's hard to switch gears so quickly, and he did a great job making that adjustment. So that really stood out to me. When it comes to his mix, his sweeper is his nastiest thing. That thing has some crazy tail to it. I got to see it firsthand. That's actually my radio inning that I have on my reel is
let's go.
Is Eric pitching. He was finishing up his start in that inning. So I think that's really fun. That he got to have that. But he's more of a finesse guy. He's using that sweeper, using his curveball. Those are his 2 best offerings. So he's one of those guys where he's not the power pitcher you see a lot. He's utilizing maybe his fastball to just help set up his sweeper, help set up his curveball. Also, we're kind of keeping that trend of college baseball. The two guys I have in my diamond in the rough are college baseball guys. He was a star at Northeastern who's been a really underrated, strong program in college baseball recently. And when it comes to Yost, though, his projection, probably a number 5 starter. He's not the overpowering top level guy, but he's a strong finesse guy. He's very consistent and has great strike throwing abilities that make him a very reliable back into the rotation type of starter to project. So again, he's a guy where he had his ups and downs when it came to adjusting to AA, but I think that initial first impression with me made such a good impression with me that I think I want to keep him in this diamond in the rough potential to really shine. I'm excited to see him be a part of the missions rotation from day one and see how he's going to do. Keep in mind, too, maybe some numbers might go down from AA to AAA for any of these pitching prospects because Texas League outside of Amarillo, it's really hard to hit. It's a lot more pitcher friendly. AAA, especially in the Pacific Coast League, is very, very hitter friendly. So keep that in mind if you're ever following along and looking at any numbers.
Awesome stuff.
And then lastly, not every day. I'll go back. Sorry, Cory, you got something?
Oh, no, you're good.
All right. Continuing, we got Alex McCoy. Not every day that I get to talk about a University of Maryland Eastern Shore baseball player in minor league baseball, but here it is. Alex McCoy, who played at UMES as well as Hofstra in his college career. He was a .294 batter for UMES back in 2022, which is the last year of MEAC baseball. So a very historic season for HBCU baseball in a lot of ways. He's a person that could be a bit of a diamond in the rough. He was a guy that played in the MLB draft league with the Frederick Keys, who also are a promoted team that got affiliation in the Orioles farm system, which is really exciting for them. Congrats to the Keys. But he earned a workout because he did so well over there with the MLB draft league. Then a month later, the Padres saw him, said, "Hey, you're pretty good. We're going to sign you." And he saw the measurables. I mean, when it comes to measurables, this guy, 6'6", 260. I mean, insane measurables for an outfielder. He's that type of guy where it will really stand out on a screen when you see him play. And then he got to play 53 games in Lake Elsinore, the kind of the back half of the season. And he was a player that really popped. He tallied a California League Player of the Week in August. He bat .315 at a .914 OPS, 40 RBI. And then, 40 RBI in 53 games. Great. 7 home runs, 53 games. Great. 14 stolen bases as well. So also able to contribute on the base pass, even at his size. Now, the main thing is he's a little bit older of a prospect, had a long college career before signing in the minors. So he's already 24 years old, going against some guys that may be a little bit younger. So that could contribute. But I'm confident he has earned himself a spot to at least go and compete in high A or in double A and see what he's made of. But he could be one of those people that could be a late bloomer that maybe was overlooked early on in his career and may end up being a surprise.
Some of these Padres guys, man, the measurables, 6'6", 260 for McCoy, awesome UMES connection. And then, sorry to cut you off on the back end there, the Eric Yost thing was really cool because that's not even something I think a lot of us consider, his scenario of, hey, kid, you're going to get an impromptu call up because we're literally out of arms. Like, you hear the stories that you had described before with the trade deadline of jump in the car, you have a new home, but it's also, we need people to fill out our roster for this 100-and-something game season. And when you have the Padres do what they did with their top prospects at the past deadline, yeah, Fort Wayne lost some guys too, and it was internal. It was, yeah, you got to go up to San Antonio, or go down to San Antonio, I guess, go up in the rank, or in the ladder, yeah, south geographically, but and go pitch. And who knows what could have happened there, except he goes in there, and that's awesome that he's on your radio reel too, that he goes in and pitches 6 innings of really strong baseball at a level that, 48, 72 hours ago, he probably wasn't expecting to be at yet. So really awesome context there, especially with Yost on kind of getting that impromptu pressure makes diamonds call up, and he responded to it.
Yeah, great way to put it, Cory. Yeah, again, just really cool to get to see that firsthand and to highlight what that experience was like for these players. And a guy that can respond in that situation, it is definitely worthy of a call out. And it's good because now once you see these moments, you're never going to stop like having this guy on your radar, and you'll always be thinking about, hey, I wonder how this guy's doing. I want to see continuing how he's going to grow. And who knows, maybe you'll see him making a major league debut and you'll be like, hey, I remember when, or maybe there might be an injury or there might be a player traded all of a sudden and he might have something, and then they might go back to the story and you might hear, or Porcello on the broadcast talking about, yeah, back when he was in high A, he had to move up to double A impromptu because of the Mason Miller trade. It's kind of similar to what he's doing now. You might hear a story like that a couple years down the line. So it's really interesting to see those stories now and really respect what these guys are doing. So both of those diamonds in the rough, it was made me very happy to get to see both of them and talk about both of these prospects, and definitely rooting for them in the Padres system.
Yeah, the UMES connection is remarkable. It's spectacular. So I'm glad you were able to do a little digging there and see someone who I think is going to be a beast and is going to earn his way up the ladder too.